In 1953, the CIA put a king back on his throne. For 26 years, that king ruled Iran with an iron fist. This is what happened when the people finally had enough. He threw the most expensive party in human history, while his people starved. He built palaces covered in gold, while families lived in slums. He created a secret police force so brutal, so feared that Iranians whispered its name, Savak. Thousands were arrested, tortured, disappeared. The Shah called it progress. The people called it oppression. And one man, exiled for 15 years, was about to bring it all crashing down. His name was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. In the 1960s, the Shah had launched what he called the White Revolution, a massive modernization program. Land reforms, women's suffrage, Western-style education. On paper, it sounded like progress, but in practice, it destroyed traditional communities. Farmers lost their land, bazaar merchants lost their businesses, and the clergy lost their influence. Khomeini spoke out against it publicly. He called the Shah a puppet of America. The Shah had him arrested, then exiled, first to Turkey, then to Iraq, finally to France. For 15 years, Khomeini waited, but he never stopped talking. His sermons were recorded on cassette tapes, smuggled into Iran by the thousands, passed from hand to hand in mosques, in bazaars, in living rooms. The Shah controlled the television, the radio, the newspapers, but he couldn't control the cassette tapes. Khomeini's voice spread like fire across the country. In every city, in every village, Iranians were listening. His message was simple: the Shah must go. By 1977, Iran was breaking. The economy was collapsing. Inflation was destroying the middle class. Oil money flowed into palaces, not into hospitals, not into schools. The Shah had spent $300 million on a single party in the desert, the celebration of 2,500 years of Persian monarchy. 60 kings and presidents flew in from around the world. 50,000 bottles of wine were imported from France. The food was prepared by the chefs of Maxime's de Paris, and the entire event was held in air-conditioned tents in the middle of the desert, while just miles away, Iranian villages had no running water. The people never forgot that party. In January 1978, a government newspaper published an article insulting Khomeini. The next day, theology students in the city of Qom took to the streets. The police opened fire. Several students were killed. In Shia Islam, you mourn the dead after 40 days. So, 40 days later, mourners gathered in the city of Tabriz. They came to pray, but grief turned to anger, and anger turned to protest. The police fired again, more dead. Another 40 days, another city, more mourning, more protests, more shooting. Each time the crowds grew larger. Each time the anger grew deeper. This was the cycle of blood that powered the revolution. By September 1978, millions were marching. 9 million Iranians took to the streets in cities across the country, the largest protest in human history at that time. On September 8th, the Shah declared martial law. Soldiers opened fire on unarmed protesters in Jaleh Square, Tehran. Men, women, and children fell in the streets. Dozens were killed, some say hundreds. They called it Black Friday. After Black Friday, there was no going back. The fear was gone. The people were no longer afraid of the Shah. The Shah was now afraid of the people. Workers went on strike. Oil workers first. Iran's oil production dropped from 6 million barrels a day to almost zero. Bank workers followed, then factory workers, then government employees. The entire economy shut down. The Shah tried everything. He appointed a new prime minister. He promised reforms. He released political prisoners. But it was too late, because the people didn't want reforms anymore. They wanted him gone. On January 16, 1979, the Shah boarded a plane. He told his prime minister, "I leave Iran in your hands and in God's hands." Iranians poured into the streets, dancing, honking car horns, giving out sweets. The king was gone. He never came back. He died in exile in Egypt 1 year later, alone. 2 weeks later, on February 1st, a chartered Air France plane landed in Tehran. On board was a 77-year-old man who had not set foot in Iran for 15 years. Ayatollah Khomeini stepped off the plane. 3 million people were waiting for him. The streets of Tehran were so packed that his motorcade couldn't move. He had to be airlifted by helicopter to a cemetery south of the city. A journalist on the plane had asked Khomeini what he felt returning to Iran after so long. He answered with one word: nothing. That single word told the world everything about the man who was about to reshape Iran. Within 10 days, the revolution was complete. On February 11th, the military declared neutrality. Soldiers walked out of their barracks. Some joined the crowds. Some just simply went home. The last royal government collapsed. 2,500 years of monarchy in Iran ended, not with a foreign invasion, not with a military coup, with cassette tapes, strikes, and millions of ordinary people in the streets. But revolutions don't end when the old regime falls. They end when the new one takes hold. And what came next shocked even those who had fought for the revolution. Khomeini didn't build a democracy. He built a theocracy, a supreme leader with absolute power, above the president, above the parliament, above the law. The revolutionaries who had fought alongside the Islamists were purged. Leftists, liberals, feminists, nationalists, arrested, executed, silenced. One by one, every group that had helped overthrow the Shah was eliminated. Women who had marched without veils were forced to cover. Tens of thousands of women protested in the streets of Tehran against the new dress code. They were ignored. The press was shut down. Political parties were banned. Iran went from one form of dictatorship to another. Then came the hostage crisis. When the Shah fled to America for medical treatment, Iranians saw it as 1953 all over again. They remembered what happened the last time an Iranian leader was overthrown and the Americans got involved. Students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran on November 4, 1979. 52 American diplomats were taken hostage. The students thought it would last a few days, a symbolic protest. It lasted 444 days. It destroyed Jimmy Carter's presidency, and it sealed Iran's isolation from the West for the next 45 years. A year later, Saddam Hussein invaded Iran. He thought the revolution had left Iran weak and divided. He was wrong. The war lasted 8 years, from 1980 to 1988. It was one of the bloodiest conflicts since World War II. Over 1 million people died. Chemical weapons were used on soldiers and civilians. Entire cities were leveled. Families were destroyed. Children as young as 12 were sent to the front lines. They were given plastic keys and told they were keys to paradise. The world looked away. Everything that defines the Middle East today traces back to this moment. The theocracy in Tehran, the hostage crisis, the wars, the sanctions, the nuclear standoff, all of it started with a revolution that promised freedom and delivered something very different. In 1953, the CIA destroyed Iran's democracy. In 1979, Iranians tried to take it back. They succeeded in overthrowing a dictator, but they failed to build a free country. And the consequences are still being felt today. Mossadegh wanted oil for his people. The Shah wanted power. Khomeini wanted God's law. The Iranian people just wanted to be free. They're still waiting. If this video opened your eyes, subscribe. Next week, we go to the Strait of Hormuz, the 30 miles of water that could crash the entire world economy. And it's happening right now. See you then.